Okay, just going to try and get my brain into gear today. It's coming towards the end of April, and I'm watching with interest all these comings and goings about the elections for county councils and departmental councils and things in England at the moment. I live here in France on the Loire Valley near a town called Saumur. Now, here in France, the mayors, as you're probably not aware, are totally in control of their local community. They have a budget, they have the taxes that you pay, and they spend it for the benefit of the community. The mayor and his councillors. Now, they're all accountable. They have their council meetings, and then these council meetings are reported in full detail and published. And so every penny that's spent, we know, the folks living in the community know where it's gone and what they're doing with it. And that's a regular thing. It has been for virtually since the revolution. So around Saumur, there are, several dozen small towns in more or less in a big circle. And several years ago, to try and improve on recycling and making the most of the opportunities thereof, then Saumur Council, which is obviously the biggest town in the area, they're pretty big, and they have a big budget and whatever. They got together with all the small communities and decided to create a company that would look after all the recycling of things that come out of the house. Like, basically, the kitchen rubbish is one thing, and then there's bottles and plastics and cardboard packaging and green garden waste, and that's a big thing. Now, so the council look after all this. They built a big depot in the town, and they created about 6 smaller depots in the larger communities around the town, so that folks can take their garden waste. The plastics are collected every week, every fortnight. A yellow bin, we have 2 bins. One's a yellow bin that collects for plastics and packaging, small bits of cardboard, food packaging and things like that, that's clean, and your plastic bottles. Glass bottles you take, or I take, we take to a bottle bank, and every town has several bottle banks around the outside of the town. So there's plenty of those. At these bottle bank areas around every town, there is a paper, magazines and books collection as well. It's just like a bottle bank, but it's for paper. And also alongside that is one for folded cardboard. So you can take big cardboard packages, you must fold them flat and put them in this cardboard collection box, all right? And these boxes and things are emptied every week. There's lorries going around with cranes, and they pick these boxes that you put stuff in. They pick it up, shove it over their lorry, which is big, and they open the bottom of it, and everything drops into the lorry, and they shut the bottom, put it back on the ground, and Bob's your uncle, off it goes. Now, once these things have been emptied, they all go to a big collection centre in Saumur, or just outside Saumur, where it's sorted. So there's lorries collecting bottles, there's lorries collecting plastics, because you can take plastics there outside to the bottle bank. There's the lorries collecting the plastics from your house every fortnight. So you can, those are the things around your town. The big collection areas in the areas around, say in the town next to you, you can take your garden waste there. You can take brick rubble, tyres, waste oil, old electrical gadgets, washing machines. You can take anything there, and they'll have a home for it. Now, of course, batteries and things they sell. Oh, there's a bin for scrap metal. They sell that, you see. Lots of people don't recycle scrap metal. They normally put it, so you can take it to this big recycling centre and put it in the appropriate bin. And if you're doing work in the house, there's one for wood. There's the plaster and brick rubble and stuff like that. There's one for that. And the Somia organisation, it's called Kiri around here, they process it all. The only thing they don't sell is kitchen waste, and that's, you know, the stuff in your kitchen that you don't eat. And I'm trying to say what it is. We don't have much. They collect that every fortnight as a black bin, and we have just two bins in the fortnight, 2 plastic bags in the fortnight out of our kitchen bin. You are supposed to process vegetable waste, composter, and they do sell composters at hugely reduced prices to encourage you to compost then your kitchen waste, you know, outside veg leaves and all that kind of thing, and whatever. So composting you're supposed to do. In fact, they're getting a bit harder on this, so to try and restrict the amount of stuff that they pick up as kitchen waste. We have 2 small plastic bags a fortnight. Some houses have a huge amount, and in that black bin it must only be like kitchen waste. It's mucky packaging that you can't clean, or things that you really can't do anything else with. Now that they have to pay to have it taken away, and they incinerate it, and it goes to an incineration centre in the next department. There's several in France, probably about 7 or 8 of these places, and the incineration plant burns all this stuff and produces electricity with it. So nothing is wasted. Oh, by the way, there is no such thing here as landfill. Doesn't exist. I mean, there's lots of beautiful places and there's lots of quarries and things like that, but they are community spaces. You don't find a bulldozer there and chucking rubbish in it and covering it up. No way. All right? Low landfill. No landfill. The only thing that they have to pay to be processed is that kitchen waste, and they're all the time trying to reduce that and encourage you to compost as much as possible. So even tins, you wash your tins out and they all go in the yellow bin with plastics and things like that. Now, so consequently, the Somia Council, it's called Somia Aglo. It involves all the mayors in the towns around Somia. The mayor of Somia is the principal executive officer. And it's a big business. I mean, the garden waste, you wouldn't imagine the green waste, that you can take anything there. Either to your local reprocessing centre, and it eventually gets to Somia, to the big green waste area where they've got an enormous machine. I mean, the amount of capital that's been put into this initially, several years ago, is immense. And there's a machine that processes green waste, bits of trees, all your stuff out your garden, and it turns it into the compost that you buy at your supermarket. All right, garden compost. It's cheap. I mean, I bought 12 bags of compost to grow my tomatoes in this year, instead of putting them in the ground or putting them in bins. I'll show you that another time. But £3.50 a bag, and that's it's a big bag, 50 something or other. It's as much as you can lift, all right? And this is where it comes from. I mean, Somia isn't the only town that does this. I mean, France is big, as you know, and this is big business. This is how they process their waste and recycling. So they sell that. They sell the plastics. Of course, it goes and makes jumpers and all kinds of coats and things, and all kinds of other things. And they sell the metal, of course, and batteries and anything else. Now, consequently, Somia Aglo run the lorries. They employ the men that empty your bins. They employ the men at the recycling centres around. There's about 6 or 8 of them in the towns around Saumur. They employ the people at the big recycling centre in Saumur. And they make a profit. In fact, they make a big profit. I mean, it's taken them a while to get them organised, but now all the small towns around Saumur benefit from this profit. And our local mayor has recently put in, or this is last year, put in an application for financial aid for community housing. And the mayor has taken over a block of property which isn't in terribly good condition, and is turning it into flats for people, retired people or people in the community who want to rent somewhere, start young families, that kind of thing. And Saumur Aglo are helping with the finance of that. It's not a loan. It's a gift. It's there to help towards local communities with projects like that. So Saumur Aglo is funding projects in the community around Saumur and in the towns around about that belong to Saumur Aglo. They're also doing it in Saumur itself. They run the local bus service in Saumur. They've built a plant that turns farm waste into gas. What do you call it? Methane. They've built a fuel station on the Saumur bypass which sells the methane gas to anybody with lorries and things going past who want to buy the methane, put it in their lorry and that kind of thing. So there are methane lorries, and Saumur Aglo run the buses in the town on this methane gas, and it's provided by their own service. And so there we are. So there's no end to this. So they run the buses, they run this recycling centre, and that's just a little part of what the council does. I mean, they run the schools, they pay for all the roads in the town, upkeep, gardens, parks, local community amenities, school meals, anything you can think of. Then the local mayor and his councillors run it and pay for it. How on earth can Birmingham Council and more interestingly my old county of Lincolnshire County Council, how on earth can they be in deficit if they're not doing constructive things? Surely they must be doing things like this to help your local community, so that people in the area are benefiting from the efforts of the councillors. But obviously they're not. Why are they not benefiting from these possibilities? Why are councils and in England running? How on earth are they running a deficit? Now, the other thing is, of course, you don't get mayors and councillors in France being given enormous amounts of money, right? They get attendance allowance, and that's about it. Okay, they don't get a Rolls Royce or a city car or all that kind of thing. They go about under their own steam, and everything they do is for the benefit of the community. I do find it, living in this where this happens, I can't comprehend. Well, I do. I mean, I lived in England most of my life, and I did almost became a county councillor. I ran I did fight an election in Lincolnshire. I nearly won it, actually, but I didn't. My wife wouldn't speak to me for 2 or 3 weeks after. Was one of the local doctors put me up as a prospective candidate, and his wife seconded me. And it so happened my wife worked for the local doctor. She wouldn't speak to him either. I don't suppose that'd have lasted long, because the frustration would have been too bad. But there we are. Things are different here, and it's all to do with liberté, fraternité and égalité. And no matter what people say, it still counts. You know, people count, the community counts, and people help each other. And you don't have councils running in deficit. Say our local council runs its own tractors, it has its workers, there's about 6 or 8 of them. They do parks and gardens, they do road repairs, they do repairs to council properties. We've got our own tractors and vans and all that kind of thing. I don't know how on earth. Things will have to change in England, you know, because how long can people stand by and see these councillors being given huge amounts of money for doing next to nothing? I mean, surely it isn't their job. You know, they've got a job as well, and the council work is just, you know, they do it in the spare time. Surely, maybe take a day off a week or something. It can't carry on, you know. So another day I'll do you a little talk about the health service in France and the difference between the health service in France and the health service in England. But that's probably enough for the moment. I've spouted enough. I've given you a few facts. Whatever I tell you, it's quite true. So here you don't have deficits, and people benefit from whatever the councillors, mayor and his mates get up to. And you know every month what they've been doing, because it's all written down, and they're accountable for every penny that they spend and every penny that they receive. It's all written down. There's no people saying, oh yeah, we're going to give the health service several £100 million and they'll be great after that. Did they get the £100 million? Can't see any difference. I mean, how many times has that happened over the years? Over different governments. I mean, no, not many of the governments are any different. I mean, they don't seem to be accountable. You know, who knows where the money goes? That's enough for today. That's a bit of a rant, isn't it? So don't forget, if you want to look at what Cracker Books do, because I'm Cracker Books, then it's www.crackerbooks.fr. There's books to download, audio stories to listen to. Not all like this. Most of them are very funny. And videos to watch. Thanks for being with me. Until the next time, cheerio.